As always, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This information is presented for educational purposes only. All right. I don't make recommendations to buy or sell assets for other people. I'm just sharing and documenting what I'm doing with our personal money. And let me get these other folks in the room here. And we'll get rocking. All right, so the one chart that's not mine that I wanted to bring up is, again, just this overlay of the Bitcoin price in orange overlaid the global M2 money supply. The correlation continues to be really, really spot on. And we're, as of today, I think around 96 to 97K. So actually just following this perfectly right now. And fingers crossed it continues to do so. But this is what Bitcoin typically does, is follow the money supply in 4-year cycles. So this is awesome. This is bullish. And I think a lot of the other charts that we're going to look at here today would support this as well. So that's the one, screenshot that I wanted to share with you outside of the other charts, which we're going to go into a pretty big detailed dive on today. And you know what? I'll actually just start with the portfolio. I went ahead and I updated the portfolio in the members area today. So let me get back to my slides. And this is where my portfolio currently stands as of today. So I've started to rotate some money into alts. We'll go over all of these charts here today. But I believe I've got, 8 different assets: Ondo, Super, EOS, FET, Bonk, Pepe, Fart, and Tau. These are the prices that I purchased at. And so the portfolio has been updated with these prices as well. And then I've also updated my watch list. So let me go ahead and I'll just share that as well. I'll bring up a browser window here. This cycle's been so long and it's been so different. It feels like the portfolio from 2 years ago. It feels like a previous cycle. Like it's really wild how different this one has been. Let me get down into this section here. Okay. So this is the portfolio as of today. So I have these on here. It looks like I have missed one I need to add. So I will do that. Yeah, I'll figure out which one that is that I missed. Get that up in there. And then these are my updated watch list. So these are the ones I'm going to continue to keep an eye on that I have an interest in taking a position on once I really feel that alt season has started. Some of these, not all of them, but some of them are lower market cap. So these, I believe, are, for the most part, fairly up to date, if not completely up to date, market cap values. And there's some in here. Let me just make sure real quick that I've got everybody in here. I don't want people waiting. Okay. We'll go through a lot of these, but some of these, like Neural, Research Coin, Nosana, I think can do really, really well. They've already proven they could in the previous kind of alt pumps that we've had, but their liquidity is too low for me right now to feel comfortable taking a position, and it's too early still. I want to see further confirmation from an altcoin side of the house before I start to, fully move out of Bitcoin and into altcoins. I'm not ready to do that yet, but I have started to rotate some of my Bitcoin into these positions right here. So just wanted to give you guys an update. You can ignore everything below this. This is just all the old stuff from the first half. And this is where I currently stand right now: watch list and current portfolio. And I need, Bitcoin is a part of this list. That's a given. This is just the altcoins that I've taken a position in. All right, so let's look at some charts now. Oh, that was the screen I needed. Okay. So Bitcoin is rocking. We are on the weekly time frame. We are currently at $97,000, so it is doing great. We're about to have a bullish cross on the weekly MACD, which would potentially signal, no guarantees on this stuff, but potentially signal that we're headed up into another upward momentum cycle like this one and like this one right here, where we had a bullish, previous bullish cross on the weekly, previous bullish cross on the weekly, about to have one here in the next week or so. And I'm anticipating with, as long as we don't have some weird tariff stuff come out that kind of throws a wrench under the bus, that we would see this leg take us up to 120, more likely to the 150 area. And that could potentially be the end of this cycle. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to look beyond that at this point, but that's what I'm expecting this to turn into, 120 to 150 on Bitcoin. And we've got our breakout on the weekly RSI. So that's Bitcoin's looking super strong. Obviously, the next big point of resistance is going to be the previous all-time high around 108, 109. I'm sure we'll come up and hit that, have some resistance around that, and eventually break through. But I would anticipate that we are going to break that through and up into 120 to 150. Bitcoin dominance continues to move upward towards this long-term trend line right here. So we'll see. It's not far. We're currently at 64.7%, and we're looking at roughly, let's just say 66% to stay safe. And the big question is, are we going to bounce off of that like we did last time? And that'll signal the start of alt season, or are we going to break through that and come up to this previous area where we've typically always hit in past cycles around the 73% mark? So that's kind of the big question on dominance. There, as you can see, there are already altcoins moving against Bitcoin, but this is just the alt market as a whole over an extended period of time. Each of these candles is a week long. So you'll have days where certain altcoins are pumping like they are today, and they're going up more than Bitcoin. Typically, when dominance is going up, that means Bitcoin is going to retain its value or continue to go up in value over an extended period of time, not looking at day-to-day pumps and things like that. All right, the big chart that I'm really interested in here is others. So this is all the altcoins outside of the top 10. We have regained this long-term trend line, which is great. We've now held that for almost a week as support, which is fantastic. On the weekly time frame, we have broken out on the RSI. We have not confirmed yet a bullish cross, but we will most likely here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so I'm expecting that this is going to turn into, just like we had our bullish cross here, a giant leg up, bullish cross here, a giant leg up. We'll have a bullish cross here and have our third giant leg up in altcoins. And there's a lot of projects that I had in my portfolio during these legs that went up 10x. And so I want to make sure that I'm positioned for that, which is why I've started to rotate some of my Bitcoin and cash into altcoins based on this right here, breakout on the RSI and anticipating a bullish cross on the MACD and regaining support. So I think this is as low as I can get into this market, and altcoins in general. It's as low to the bottom as I can get with a reasonable amount of safety. Anything below this trend line was kind of playing with fire, but where we're at now, this is as low as I can get an entry point in with some degree of safety again. S&P is breaking out above its downward trend line, which is great. So stocks are moving. Same thing for NVIDIA. Tesla's up to 184. This is on the weekly. I'm just going to move to the daily time frame here. So we broke out of this triangle or wedge here, whatever you want to call it, up, hit this line of resistance right now, this long-term downward trend line, which we're currently hitting. I'm expecting that we'll break out of this, which means that the next place that we're headed is this long-term trend line, which would really correspond with this area right here, where we've had lots of support here. And so there's a confluence point right here, right, where this trend line meets this resistance line at about 330. So for me, assuming this trend continues upward, which I believe it will, the next price target that I'd expect it to go would be around the 330 area. And on the weekly time frame, we're heading towards, a bullish cross here, or at least a bottoming in the weekly MACD. Momentum has definitely started to change. We have not, or we just, it looks like probably by the end of this week, we'll have a breakout of the RSI on the weekly time frame as well. So the downward pattern here is about to be broken out of. It's about to be broken out of right here. And once it does, I think Tesla is heading back up, probably to previous all-time highs around 488, 494. Let's just call it 500. But next stop for me would be 330. Palantir's just absolutely crushing it. This was a big miss for me, not picking up some Palantir right here. But can't get them all. That's totally fine. But Palantir's previous all-time high, 125. It certainly is going to come up and hit that. And then once it breaks through that, there is no previous price history. So who knows where it's going to go? It could go significantly higher. I have absolutely no idea. Once something gets into new territory, it's really hard to figure out where it's going to stop, but it looks like Palantir is going to have another massive leg up. Gold is continuing to kind of lose its momentum. So we're on the weekly time frame here. We've had a sell-off of about 8%, so not that big of a deal, but we're overbought on the weekly RSI, starting to lose momentum on the MACD, and this makes total sense to me. Gold's starting to lose steam while stocks and Bitcoin are starting to gain steam, so there's a little bit of a rotation happening right now from gold into more risk-on assets, and that's the environment we're heading in, which is great. I want to be in a risk-on environment with stocks and crypto rather than with risk-off in gold. But if and when gold comes down and retests this trend line around 3,000, 3,100, which is not far, we're at 32 right now. I'm definitely going to anticipate picking up more. If it breaks down through that, we're 2,900, not that big of a deal. I'd be surprised if it goes below that, unless this was the cycle top, but I don't anticipate that it is. I think we'll get some more consolidation. And then I think the gold bull market will continue for another couple of years, because I do think this rally that we have in risk on assets right now will come to an end by the end of this year. There's some talk that some big investment firms, one Apollo specifically, put out a big paper this week that was kind of making the rounds, that they're expecting the tariff implications to actually hit the market this summer. So goods inventory going dry from China, store shelves starting to go empty, trucking transport starting to decline. And if that starts to happen, which I believe is likely, because I've read tons of stories about entrepreneurs and business owners who are not getting inventory from overseas anymore. Their business model doesn't make sense anymore under the current tariff conditions. And so that trend doesn't change overnight. Like large purchase orders and manufacturing orders and shipping and containers and all of that takes months. It's like turning the Titanic. It's not like you can just change that overnight. And so I think that we'll start to see the ramifications that were put in place 2 months ago hit in the next 2 months here. And that could kick off, the beginning of the actual recession, with stores laying off employees and unemployment going up, which we've been looking at for a year and a half now, waiting for that curve. And we'll take a look at the chart later, but for that curve to go up and parabolic, because it's already started its uptrend. So if I had to bet, I would guess that we're going to have a big leg up here in crypto to 120, 150 in Bitcoin, have a nice little rally in alts in the next couple of months between now and the end of June, and things could change at that point. So I'm just definitely keeping an eye on things. If and when that happens, I'd expect gold to have come down here and either retested this trend line and start to go up again. All right, that would make sense to me in the June, July timeframe here. All right, Ethereum. So this is going to be big for alts. We're on the weekly time frame. Ethereum is starting to gain some momentum, some positive momentum here. We have broken out of the downward trend line on the weekly RSI. and we bottomed here in the oversold territory, just barely got into that, which is great. And so Ethereum has come up from roughly $1,400 to 1865 in the last couple of weeks. It just needs to break through this downward trend line, which it should do in the next week or so. And then it's likely coming up to 2,300-ish, 2,200-ish to hit this line. And once it breaks through that, then I think alt season is on in a pretty big way. And so one thing that I'm doing is I've got some cash in my Roth IRA set aside. I'm just keeping on the sideline to put in there's several Ethereum ETFs out there. You can just type in Google Ethereum ETFs. I believe the one I'm just going to invest in is literally ETH. I forget which firm is behind that one, but there's a bunch. And assuming we have this, I mean, Ethereum's going to go at minimum. It's likely to hit this trend line, depending upon how you want to draw it. So that would be around 4,200. And let's just say from this trend line to that trend line, 87%. And then the next final boss is breaking through to new all-time highs at roughly 4,900 bucks. And so that's 117%. Once we break out of this trend line right here and we continue to have a big change in the MACD and we have a bullish cross, I'm going to allocate that cash into an Ethereum ETF. I've got my Bitcoin ETF money and my Tesla money, but I want to put a little bit into Ethereum ETF because the gains on Ethereum are going to be significantly higher than the gains in Bitcoin once this happens. I'm just patiently waiting for it to happen and confirm before I make a decision on that. And from a portfolio percentage perspective, the kind of money I'm talking about here would be about 6%. Right? So not a huge holding, but it has an opportunity to gain significantly. And so just want to give you guys an idea of what I'm watching here. Now, this is the value of Ethereum when compared to Bitcoin, right? So ETH USD divided by Bitcoin. And this is the value of Ethereum against Bitcoin. And obviously, it's not been doing great this entire cycle, but it is coming down to this long-term bottom pattern here where we have a previous touch point here and a previous touch point here where it bottomed in the last cycle. So this would be the Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio basically. And we're about to bottom there. And so I'd like to see Ethereum hold this. And if it does, and it starts to gain momentum here, this would be another big signal for alt season where I would expect that to change. And so this is on the weekly time frame. Ethereum is definitely in oversold territory versus Bitcoin. No real change on the MACD or momentum. But you know, if Ethereum has any legs in it this cycle, this is about as good of a time as you can get to pick some up versus Bitcoin. But if this starts to move up, what this would say is, hey, it's time to rotate out of Bitcoin and into Ethereum or other altcoins. And whenever Ethereum starts to move up in this ratio, and this is the same thing as Bitcoin dominance, this is the same thing. It's just the inverse of this chart, just a different way of looking at it when compared to Ethereum. And this starts to break down, well, that's rotating out of Bitcoin into altcoin time. And as you can see here, we'll see if we're going to top here or if we're going to continue to go up and top here. But Bitcoin versus Ethereum is looking like it's as close to a bottom as we can get. We'll see if it breaks through that, but it's inflection time for that. Okay, so taking a look at some of the altcoins in the portfolio. This is FET, an AI play. It's having its bullish crossover on the weekly MACD right now. And by the end of this week, it'll have a breakout on the RSI. It's broken out of its downward trend line. So it's about as good as it gets on all of the momentum indicators that I'm following. And we have Ondo, doesn't have a lot of price history, but you'll find that pretty much all of these charts are going to look identical. Breakout of the trend line, about to have a bullish cross on the MACD and a breakout on the RSI. One of my all-time faves this cycle, AOZ, same exact trend happening here. It had this long-term support line that it just broke through, and it's now turned that into support once again this week. So I love me some AOZ. It was my best project for the first half of this cycle. So that is why I bought some this week. Same with Superverse, about to have a bullish cross. You know, the big mistake for me here was not selling any of my alts on this bearish cross. And I think it would be a big mistake for me to not buy in on the bullish cross, right? So I'm not trying to take my opinion and brain out of the cycle and just follow what price action is telling me, which, and these indicators just make it really easy to see from a visual perspective, what is price action doing? And not following the sell markers here were a big mistake. It would have been a big mistake not to buy on this bullish cross right here. I think it's going to be the same thing right here. Nothing's guaranteed, but that's how I'm going about this. Bonk, all of these charts look almost identical. Breakout, bullish cross, MAC RSI breakout. Pepe, they all look the same, which is pretty wild. And then this is another AI, a newer AI project that, let's go to the daily just so we get some more data. That's an AI play. As you can see, it's already up a couple 100%, 150, 200% from the bottom. Yeah, 200%. And I don't have its market cap data up here, but on the weekly time frame, I don't even know if it has MACD yet. I don't even know if it has enough candles to have MACD data. Yeah, a little bit. So it did have its bullish cross already before it kind of went off. So it's had a nice pump. It could come back. You know, if I take a position in this, I'd have to, if I did that today, I'd have to anticipate that this could have a little bit of a sell-off in the meantime before it goes up because it's had such a big pump. So that's what I'm looking at. This is the, let's just pull up the virtuals chart on CoinMarketCap. Get a different view. So this is its long-term price chart, current market cap 1.1 billion, currently on Binance, so no American exchanges. It is trading on Uniswap as an Ethereum token. So that's where I would have to buy it. Volume, it does have some good volume at $1 million. Looks like it's also being traded on Sol, 5 million in volume, which would be even better. But let's look at some of the other projects on the watch list here so I can show you guys what I mean from a volume perspective. Let's look at PIN and Pith. No, Pith is big. Let's look at Nosana and Neural, because I think these projects should do really well. Nosana is the chain link of the Solana ecosystem. $43 million market cap right now and $165,000 in daily volume on Raydium, which is not a lot. That's about as low as I'd like to go in on a token. And the volume's important because this is how much is being traded back and forth, buy and sell of this. And so this is the amount of liquidity that's available via Raydium. And if you're trading in a token, you want to have a volume of at least 100,000, 150,000, like a bare minimum. Ideally in the 300, 500,000 is on the low range as well, just so that you know you can get out of the token if you want to get out of it, and especially if you have it in any kind of a position in any kind of size in the thousands of dollars. So Nosana is definitely on my list. I just want to see more of a trend change just to be careful. So let's do Binance. No, this was Solana. I don't want Solana. I want Nosana. Kraken, it's just not going to have any volume on Kraken, but it looks like that's the only option. So it did have a bullish crossover on, that's about to on the weekly. It had it on the 3-day, and then trend line. is just about to have it this week on the RSI as well. So Nosana could be bottoming out. I would personally, this could be a great time to get in at the bottom. I'd personally just like to see a little bit more volume here. But it might be worth taking a small allocation, right? I don't have to take a full position in Nosana right now. I could take a tenth of a position. If I want to put, let's just say $1,000 in Nosana, I could put $100 in today, at this kind of low position. And as the whole market starts to confirm, start to add in and average into that position would be one way to do it. The other one was GP, I think it was GPU or no, Neural. Neural, another AI project that I think is going to do really well if we get an alt season. Nice bottoming formation here, starting to come up, which I like. $35 million market cap, so super, super low market cap. The only place to get it would be on Uniswap. Volume's $188,000 a day. So this is about as low as you can get into a project that actually is being traded with liquidity, a little bit of liquidity. So, Neural from here, if we get an alt season, could do 20x. Wouldn't surprise me at all if it did that. So that's why it's on the watch list. I might take a small little nibble into Neural and Nosana and some of these other projects that are on the watch list like these. But I'm happy with moving some money into these right now. I'm not in a rush. I've been burned too many times this cycle. It's been too volatile with the tariffs and the tweets. There's still too many unknowns. I'm not being super greedy here. I'm being very cautious. If I was being super greedy, I would just be taking positions and rotating all of my Bitcoin into alts, but I'm just not going to do that right now. I'm being much more conservative after the way that this cycle has gone so far. It's just been insane with volatility. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I'm happy to look at any other assets if you would like me to take a look at those as well. I know we've had some questions around SUI, so let's just look at that. I mean, SUI's great. I wish I could have gotten in here at $2. But the problem for me is that it's already got a $12 billion market cap. And, so for the price to double, to go from 370 to whatever that would be, seven-ish and change, it'd have to get another $12 billion. And then for it to double again or triple, it'd have to do, 3x that. And that's just a lot of money that's required to double the price of a token. And I'd much rather be in tokens that are at $1 billion market cap or a $500 million market cap that take much less liquidity to double, triple, quadruple, etc. So right now, $12 billion market cap. Solana's at 78. Could Sui do a 10x from here in an alt season? Yeah, absolutely. I think it could, for sure. For me, I'd rather just go lower market cap projects for me personally. All right, let me look at you guys. Let me look at your chat. Yeah, so Alex here, we've already put our US imports on hold. I know a lot of Amazon sellers are in the same position. Yeah, I mean, I know businesses that are going out of business right now because they can't sell their product at the prices they'd have to sell them at. Previously said, why buy ETH as Sol is much better? Because, Todd, I'm specifically talking about in my IRA through the Ethereum ETF. There is no Solana ETF yet. If there was, I would absolutely be buying Solana through the Solana ETF, but it doesn't exist yet. So my next best option is the Ethereum ETF. And it's purely for price appreciation versus Bitcoin. It's either put it in Bitcoin, or if the time of the cycle is coming where Ethereum is going to start to outperform Bitcoin, then I want to put some of that cash into Ethereum. Any thoughts on Gala? They recently worked with the White House over Easter. I mean, Gala's been around, I think, since 2017. I had a lot of Gala in a previous cycle. So gaming token, $761 million market cap, and exchange-wise, you're basically overseas, nothing in the US except crypto.com, 313,000, so pretty low volume on crypto.com. I just hate using crypto.com. It's such a pain in the ass. but great volume on Binance, virtually nothing on Uniswap volume-wise. So for me, there's, I believe, a lot better tokens than Gala if you're going to get into the gaming niche. And I've got a whole list of tokens on the gaming niche from the beginning of this cycle that I've had on my watch list. But so far, AI has dominated the gaming narrative. I do think if we get a full-blown alt season, that we will see a big blow off top in gaming tokens where money will likely rotate from AI into gaming at some point, and probably towards the end of the cycle, because there's too many good projects here and there's too much money to be made for that not to happen. But so far it hasn't played out that way. So now I'm just kind of sitting on the sidelines, but you'll see on my watch list here, I've got gaming tokens, I've got IMX, Beam. Yeah, so IMX and Beam are the two big gaming ones now, but down here we had tons of them. Citus, well, Super is already on the list. Atlas, yeah, Gala, Ape. Yeah, there was tons and tons of little gaming tokens down here. And I'm keeping this list up here because if that happens, a lot of these are going to come alive. And Altura, Myria, a lot of these are going to come alive if and when we get an alt season, and they're just going to go to insane multiples. But hasn't happened so far. So I'm waiting. Where can I find your chart setup to watch the charts with you? I just go to TradingView and I just bring up the signal here. So you go to crypto and then type in the symbol for your asset that you want to look at, and then you go to indicators and you type in MACD, moving average convergence divergence, which is this indicator right here, and then RSI for relative strength index, which is this indicator right here, and then I go to the weekly time frame, and that's how I do these. So super simple. Do I think ETH will do better than SOL if we get an alt season? No, I think SOL will do better than ETH because for no other reason. I mean, SOL is just a better project, period. But just look at the market cap. 78 billion versus 224 billion. So Ethereum's already 3x. I think Solana just has a lot, requires a lot less liquidity to go up in price compared to ETH. So, what market cap levels are I usually looking at to find coins that can 20x or more? I'd say under 500 million, 500 million or under. But right now, okay, so here's something that I wanted to share with you guys that I was doing today as well. So you come here and you just go to the homepage and just click on 30-day, and this is going to order the assets by the highest percent gains over the past 30 days. So when I was doing this week, I'm like, okay, we've started to have a momentum change in crypto and in some of the alts. What are the projects that have already shown strength just at the very beginning signs of this recent wave, this trend change? And this will tell you that. So this is a way to come in and see that. That's where I found virtuals by doing that today. Fartcoin, so added that to the portfolio. This has a super strong chart. And it's just funny. So to me, it tells me as a meme coin, which one is likely to do the best in the rest of this cycle? Of course, it's going to be Fartcoin. How did you become a crypto millionaire? Through Fartcoin. Like, that's what crypto is about. It's like stupid shit like that. And I mean, this chart is just crazy, crazy strong. It doesn't have these wild up and downs like it does over here. It's just this nice, steady accumulation. And Pengu is on my watch list, I believe, as well. So a lot of these are 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the top 6 are meme coins. Deep, I looked at, I didn't really understand. I didn't really understand it. And if I don't understand something, I'm just not going to pay much attention to it. Tau up 60%, Radium up 60%, FET up 54%, SUI 49%, WIF 47%. So you can come in here, you can say, okay, cool, these are getting some attention. These are getting some liquidity flow. There's people putting money into these tokens. And these are kind of the early front runners for this cycle. So for me, this tells me that the tokens that are up already are showing strength and are warranting some attention, like let's go look deeper into these and pay attention to these. So that's a great just asset to come in here and look at. Akash, I love AKT. I thought that was on my watch list. Is it not? Should be if it's not. No, it should be. AKT, I'm just kind of annoyed because it's had such a big pump the last week. But AKT was in the portfolio this cycle earlier a few months ago. It doesn't look like much, right? In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't look like much, but over the month, it's, from 91 cents to $1.70, so roughly 70-ish% gain. But it had this giant spike in the last 7 days, and I'm just like, I don't want to chase that. It's come down a little bit from $1.80 something to $1.60 something. $420 million market cap. So that's a nice sweet spot. It's on Coinbase, which is great. $7 million in liquidity. So this is great. I'll definitely be adding this to the portfolio watch list for sure. This was already in my portfolio, previously last year. And it definitely should be in there again. Why is crypto still so much in sync with stock market? What needs to happen to break through from that? I think it'll always be in sync from that, outside of the potential for Bitcoin to break free from that. But altcoins specifically are the most risk-on speculative asset class in the world. And so for altcoins to go up, the stock market needs to be going up as well. Has to be a major risk-on environment. Lots of liquidity or money printing, something along those lines. Bitcoin could at some point break free and that correlation and turn into digital gold, which I believe it will. I believe it's in the beginning processes of that as nation states and banks and everything start to accumulate Bitcoin. But altcoins will never break free from the stock market correlation. What are your thoughts on how low Bitcoin dominance may go this cycle? Yeah, so I took a look at that. Obviously, hopefully we covered that for you. Do I think MicroStrategy ETFs change those targets dynamics at all? I mean, yeah, that's why I think Bitcoin dominance has just kind of stair-stepped up this, because I think this has just been entity accumulation, whale accumulation, entities and things like that, which is kind of why it's just been a constant bid under Bitcoin, all of these massive institutions and countries accumulating Bitcoin, because retail hasn't really been in this cycle. Retail hasn't been here. And I think that's one of the reasons we haven't seen these big alt season, a real alt season yet. We haven't seen that, guys. We saw these two little pumps. That was nothing. If you haven't been in an alt season before, like that was like 10% of what a normal alt season is. So the question will be, will we get an alt season, or will Bitcoin dominance just continue to go? But I think we will, because I think there's just too much money to be made outside of these cycles. So I think we'll either break down here and have alt season, or it'll break through. And once we get up here, it'll break down like we have in the last previous two. But yeah, so I believe we will. Yeah, it's just retail right now. Record levels of credit card debt, record delinquencies, record low savings. So retail is basically broke, and retail is what fuels alt season and altcoins. That's why I was saying I think if we get that tax rebate that Trump has been talking about, $5,000 to $10,000 tax refund for all the money that Doge has saved, then that would be a catalyst that fires off alt season like crazy. Like people be dumping that into Fartcoin all day. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys. Any other questions for me or anything we'd like to review today? Let's see here. I've got one kind of final slide that I'll just bring up and show you, just kind of summarizes my priorities, the way I'm thinking about things right now. So kind of summary, I plan to rotate into alts as the weekly MACD for the others chart tends to gain strength. So we can look at that again here in a minute. I'm planning to invest some Roth IRA money into the ETH ETF once Ethereum starts to gain momentum. Again, that's around 6% of my portfolio that I have in cash right now for that position. I plan to buy a little bit of physical gold each month as an insurance hedge against future AI slash China risks. So we are still in the middle of the fourth turning. We are still heading into the climactic years of that between now and 2030. There's a lot of big unknowns that are going to happen between now and 2030. One of those is the race to AI dominance. And this literally is, so the United States is at war with China right now. It's not a hot war yet. It's a cold war right now that's happening on a lot of fronts. It's happening from a trade war perspective, a financial perspective. It's also happening in an AI dominance perspective. And so the US is trying to do everything we can to hamstring China from cutting off their access to chips and NVIDIA and all of that other stuff, to tariffs, because whoever gets to basically, AI superintelligence, which they're expecting now to happen within the next 24 to 36 months, kind of wins the future. And if they will, it's not if, it's they will, because they don't have to. The United States and China will both weaponize that AI. And if you have an AI system that's faster, smarter, and more dominant than the other countries around the world, and it can infiltrate those systems or crack encryption, well, guess what? You automatically win and you dominate the rest of the future, like period, because no one's ever going to be able to catch up to that level of super intelligence. And so that battle is happening right now. And I believe as we head into the climax of this fourth turning, the one piece that's been missing is a physical hot war, which you could argue is taking place right now via proxy, Russia and Ukraine, where China is backing that, we're backing that. So we kind of are at a physical hot war yet, but it's very isolated and regional. But the kind of the key hallmark for every winter turning series in the past, turnings 1, 2, and 3, have always been a physical hot war. The Revolutionary War was number one. The Civil War is number two. World War II is number three. And now we're in the midst, coming into the final chapter for the fourth turning here for the United States. And again, it's always ended in a hot war. So is this time going to be any different, or does the Russian war check that box? I don't think it does. I think we are going to get a hot war between now and 2030 with us and China. I think AI will potentially, be the linchpin that kicks that off. If everything just goes dark one day and the internet comes to an end, or what the stock markets get hacked, all of that kind of stuff, that to me would be the moment that I'm like, oh, okay, it's started and it's begun. And so, what would be the hedge against an internet that is no longer safe, encryption that is no longer safe? Potentially even Bitcoin could be no longer safe. Maybe the one, thing that Bitcoin has going for it is the most secure digital asset in the history of humankind. And so it would be the last network to fall. It's more secure than banks. It's more secure than military, encryption or any of that stuff, because it's a decentralized network. You'd have to hack at least 51% of the network at the same time, which would take AI and a crazy amount of electricity to do. So Bitcoin it would be the last asset to go on a digital front. But for me, it makes a lot of sense just to have as an insurance policy physical gold. So I'm just going to continue to buy a little bit of physical gold every month from now probably on until ever, just kind of like a richer everyday style automated buy, because I think that it's going to be important to have something that is offline in this big unknown period in history where AI superintelligence is going to come on and it's going to be plugged into the military, kind of like Skynet. um, and I have no idea what's going to happen, but I do know that the US and China are going to use it against each other, and the consequences of that are probably going to be significant. Uh, just reading through y'all's things. Where do I buy physical gold? I buy it at Amber Gold. So let me share my screen with you. These guys are in Austin. I know the owner, Dana. They've been around a long time. They're kind of one of the old school, most reputable gold dealers in the country, kind of top five gold dealers. But as you can tell, these guys are just old school. They've been around for decades, and they'll just give you a great price and great service. And they're literally in Austin. So I've gone to their physical office before and bought and sold metals there just in town, which is a nice place to have. But this is where I buy it from. Uh, get back to my chat. Where do you recommend storing gold, Mike? Man, that's just a personal question. Misha, it's hard to say, brother. Do you have a nice big fire safe in your house? You know, that's where I used to keep mine. Um, yeah, then there's the safety deposit box, or I guess basically your only two options. So I think it just depends on how safe do you feel? Do you take security seriously? Do you have are you armed? Do people know you're armed? Things like that. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Any other questions for you guys or anything that we want to transition to on the business front or anything else? Are you guys good? But at the end of the day, I think the most important chart that I'm watching is others right here. And the trend is changing, right? That's no guarantee. It could come up and turn up like this and then, hey, all of a sudden take a giant shit. Um, but I just don't think that it's possible. I just don't think that that's going to happen right now. I think we're going to get the way Bitcoin is going, we're going to get our third leg up on this right here and head up to here. And that would put us above previous all-time highs, just timing wise, right? Come up and hit this around July. So starting now, July, August, breakthrough. And the moment we break through this, it's into new all-time highs and that's when stuff gets crazy. Not guaranteed, because again, we could see this tariff stuff really start to come in and affect the economy in a big way. Uh, I think that this is going to need a catalyst because the general economy is starting to be impacted in a negative light from the tariffs. So I think it needs stimulus, and I think that stimulus money is going to come in the form of that tax rebate. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right or not, but that's just my hypothesis. Kraken stocks. I would like to buy Tesla. How does that work? What do you mean, Roger? Stocks being sold via Kraken? Why don't you just buy Tesla on the stock exchange? I'm not sure I'm following you, my friend. Yeah, I use Circle for the community platform, Chris, and then trading. The screen you're looking at now is TradingView. All right, Roger, I'm not sure I'm following you, my friend. So cool. Okay, guys. Any other questions for me? I do pay for TradingView. Yeah, I'm like on their premium tier. In order to have so many tabs open that I have, so I can look at all the charts that I want at the same time and indicators and all that stuff, I'm already into the the premium tier on TradingView. What exchanges do I stay away from on crypto? Um, I mean, I only use the US centralized exchanges, so I really only use Kraken. I only use Coinbase if I absolutely have to. But Kraken's my primary exchange, and then the everything else I do on decentralized exchanges like Uniswap or Radium and things like that. So yeah, I just being in the US, I don't use any of the other small foreign exchanges or even the big ones. I wish I could, but I don't. Cool. Awesome, guys. So big, big, I think change here is I've started to take some altcoin positions, which is the first time that's happened in 5 or 6 months. I see some actual big trend changes happening, and I'm just going to kind of have the courage to follow the indicators that have worked so far this cycle, specifically grabbing these big macro trends on the MACD weekly. we're about to have a cross up here, and I'm just gonna follow that. And I'm just playing with money that is allocated to crypto. I'm not taking leverage. I'm not spending savings. I'm not doing stupid stuff. This is money that I can speculate with, and that's what I'm going to do. But the trend is looking like it's starting to change in a big, major way right now, which I think is super important. And I think a lot of people have had a lot of whiplash this cycle and been burned, and they're hesitant to get back in right now. But I'm just going to follow what the data says and put my faith in this right now and not rely on speculation or my opinion. This is again just a visual reflection of price action, and I'm just going to follow that. So that's what I'm doing. All right. Okay. If there's no more questions, guys, thank you very much. Appreciate you as always. I will keep you posted, and I'll have this replay up here as well later today. And I'll keep you, yeah, I'll keep you guys in the loop if anything new happens. But it looks like things are starting to change for in a very positive direction. So fingers crossed that continues to happen, and may this be a really profitable end of the year, second half of the year for all of us. So, all right, thank you guys very much. See you soon.